When was the Hebrew Bible written? Hey, it's Dr. B with 10 on Religion. We're going to talk about ancient Judaism, and you're going to love it. Today, when was the Hebrew Bible written? And tomorrow, we'll ask the question, how many Israels were there? Also, for those of you who are Christian, you might refer to the Hebrew Bible as the Old Testament. Now, I'm not going to talk about the difference in the two terms today or the what is question, but I do want to talk about the when question. The answer comes from a combination of literary and archaeological approaches. The literary approach investigates the various documents and determines the sources of the texts. For example, there are two creation narratives, several versions of the Goliath story, two groups of 10 commandments. Identifying the sources of these and then figuring out how and when they were later incorporated into the narrative we have today is all part of the literary approach. This is coupled with the archaeology approach, which uses on-site discovery and scientific analysis of artifacts and land to determine when and where people lived and what kind of societies they created. It may come as a shock to some of you, but there's little evidence for early Israelite history as depicted in the Hebrew Bible documents, other than the Canaanites who already lived there. After the kingdom of Israel was conquered by the Assyrians in 722 BC or so, a small kingdom to the south called Judah became a vassal state to Assyria. Its population surged, with an influx of Israelite refugees from the north. Around this time emerges the first evidence of any kind of narrative writing. The first wave was during the time of King Hezekiah in the 700s, and the beginnings of a united monarchy story framework developed. Up until this time, the people were largely polytheistic until a Yahweh alone group emerged and gained political control and started writing. Ironically, this made almost the entire Hebrew Bible strictly a Judah-centric series of texts. It's told from their point of view and not the earlier or older original nation of Israel. Yeah, you heard me right. The story of Israel isn't even about Israel, but more on that subject tomorrow. The second wave in framing the story happened in the 600s under King Josiah's reforms. But he was murdered by the Egyptians in the city of Ar-Megiddo, or in Greek, Armageddon. Does that word sound familiar to anyone? The third wave occurred during the exile period in Babylon and Persia, and the Pentateuch narratives were written as a trope on their exile experience, and the larger story was reframed around that. The final form of the main narrative was written after the exile during what are called the Greek, Syrian, and Hellenistic periods. This puts the final text we have today written only about 100 or so years before the time of Jesus. Stay tuned for tomorrow when we ask how many Israels were there. It's going to be good. This was just a quick intro into the question on the dating of Hebrew Bible texts, and there's a lot more going on here. If you want to learn even more about how this works, check out this video from way back in 2021 and more on my channel and subscribe to 10 on Religion.